10 years ago on May 22, 2011, the American city of Joplin was badly hit by an F5 tornado. 158 dead and 1,150 injured. Nearly $3 billion in damage. What went wrong? Why so many deaths? With the help of a model we can find and analyze the causes. Tornado Joplin May 22, 2011, 10 years later. In this video presentation I am going to tell you about the infamous Tornado Joplin event. Before, during, and after the passage of this tornado are discussed. We will also find the causes using the pressure and release model or PAR model. In the end you will also have some pictures of post-Tornado Joplin. Top 10 most deaths caused by the tornado in USA. Tornado Joplin is number 7. What is striking about this top 10? Year. All except Joplin happened in the 19th and 20th centuries. The first modern warning system was in 1948. Not before that, so no weather satellite, computer, warning, siren, technology. Predicting was impossible. Number 10 was in 1953. The warning system was still in its infancy. A big breakthrough was in 1974. Tornado Joplin was in 2011. A period with many weather satellites, computers, high technology, TV, radio, social media, mobile phone. And yet many deaths. That was abnormal. Before the passage of tornado. Joplin City is located in the state of Missouri and it is close to Kansas and Oklahoma. There were 50,150 inhabitants. Its area is 92.41 square kilometers and the population density is 540 inhabitants per square kilometer. That was fairly high population density. The Köppen classification is CFA, warm maritime climate. That's cool, dry winters and hot, humid summers. Severe weather between April and June, meaning many heavy thunderstorms and tornadoes during this period. The day on May 22, 2011 was Sunday. The meteorologists knew there was a heavy thunderstorm on the way with a chance of tornadoes on this day, but unfortunately they could not predict exactly where and when the tornadoes would occur and at what intensity. But they could estimate the probability. A balloon sounding was launched. From this sounding a calculated environmental convective available potential energy, CAPE, of nearly 4,000 joules/kg was made. Tornadic storms, however, also require a certain amount of low-level wind shear to create the rotation necessary to form tornadoes. The balloon sounding indicated low-level shear of around 25 m/s, 90 km per hour, more than adequate to support severe thunderstorms and tornadogenesis given the large amount of instability, CAPE. A map of tornado probability. This map was posted on Sunday, May 22, 2011 at 6 a.m. This map was valid from May 22, 2011, 12 noon, to May 23, 12 noon. 10% probability of strong tornadoes, EF2 or greater, within 25 miles of a point in the Joplin area. During the passage of tornado. What is the difference between tornado watch and warning? Tornado watch, conditions are favorable for severe weather. Tornadoes are possible in and near the watch area. Review and discuss your emergency plans and check supplies and your safe room. Be ready to act quickly if a warning is issued or you suspect a tornado is approaching. Acting early helps to save lives. The watch area is typically large, covering numerous counties or even states. It typically lasts hours. Be aware and monitor for warnings. Tornado warning. A tornado has been sighted or indicated by weather radar. There is imminent danger to life and property. Move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building. Avoid windows. If in a mobile home, a vehicle, or outdoors, move to the closest substantial shelter and protect yourself from flying debris. Warnings typically encompass a much smaller area, around the size of a city or small county, and it typically lasts 30 to 60 minutes. Take action. The first tornado watch was issued at 1:30 p.m. Thunderstorms did develop in the Joplin area beginning between 16H and 17H. The first tornado warning was given at 5:09 p.m. and the second tornado warning was given at 5:17 p.m. This is done through the media such as TVs, radios, telephones, the internet, but also through word of mouth. At 5:11 p.m. the siren went off for the first time. This is done by the NWS Forecast Office. The storm chasers have spotted this tornado, spotter reports, at 5:34 p.m. 4 minutes later the siren sounded for the second time and at the same time the tornado EF5 hit the city of Joplin. The tornado disappeared at 6:12 p.m. After the passage Van tornado. Tornado Joplin was an F5 tornado and was in the highest tornado category. The wind speed reached more than 322 km per hour or 200 miles per hour. The maximum width was 1.6 km and the tornado track was 22 miles or 35.6 km long. The lifespan of this tornado was 38 minutes and it is moderately long but not that long. Severe tornadoes can live longer than weak tornadoes. It can take up to several hours. 25% of Joplin town was completely destroyed and 75% damaged. About 8,000 damaged buildings. There were 158 dead and 1,150 injured. Clearly deadliest tornado of the 21st century. There was also about $2.8 billion in damage and it was the most expensive tornado in U.S. history ever. I is initial. The tornado is moving towards northeast through center of Joplin, then it is weakened and moving towards southeast. Figures are the intensity of tornado. EF5 is highest. SJRMC is hospital. Franklin Technology Center is university. That's hospital. Lots of concrete and still a lot of damage. Some parts are shifted 5 centimeters. Pressure and Release Model, PAR model. So this tornado has killed 158 people. Why so many deaths? Surely it is not normal in this time full of technology. If we want to know the answers, then we have to use pressure and release model. The starting point of the pressure and release model is that a disaster is the intersection of two opposing forces. The process generating vulnerability on one side, and the physical exposure to hazard on the other. Increasing pressure can come from either side, but vulnerability has to be reduced to relieve the pressure. Vulnerability is considered in 3 levels: root causes, dynamic pressures, and unsafe conditions. hazard. Dry, cold air from Rocky Mountains. Warm, moist air from Gulf of Mexico. Warm, dry air from southwest of United States. And the jet stream produce severe weather and tornadoes in spring, April, June. A dotted line is dry line and it means a line across a continent that separates moist air and dry air. One of the most prominent examples of such a separation occurs in central North America, especially Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, where the moist air from the Gulf of Mexico meets dry air from the desert southwestern states. The dry line is an important factor in severe weather frequency. Tornado Alley is the name for an area in central North America where a relatively large number of tornadoes occur, on average about 1,000 per year. On higher altitudes in the atmosphere, we see winds stronger than those on the surface because of the friction. So difference in wind speed between the ground and a few km above. This causes a rotational movement around a horizontal axis. The air rises and we get a vertical column. The supercell is formed. If this column gets caught in a supercell updraft, the updraft tightens the spin and it speeds up, resulting in a tornado. Old Tornado Alley consists of South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. However, a new study shows that the frequency and severity of tornadoes are actually much more widespread, so Tornado Alley should also include several states in the upper Midwest and Deep South, along with Florida. That is New Tornado Alley. Joplin is located in the New Tornado Alley. It was not the first time that the city of Joplin was hit by a tornado. Previously, there were a few weaker tornadoes, which caused relatively little damage. Most people were not killed by the tornado itself, but by flying debris. This debris consists of everything such as the masts, cars, trucks, stones, wood, metals, glass, cables, containers, bricks, concrete, objects. People have little chance of surviving in a tornado full of flying debris if they don't find shelter. Tornado with debris is like the mixer. With a wind speed of 120 km per hour you can already be decapitated by a flying object. The debris can pierce almost anything like this wood through the curb. The asphalt can be sucked up. The type of tornado that struck Joplin was a multi-vortex tornado. This is one of the most dangerous types in the tornado family. This kind of tornado contains smaller, rapidly spinning whirls, known as subvortices, or suction vortices, but they are not always as clearly visible as in the big tornado. They are responsible for the high wind speed, more than 267 km per hour, and subsequently for the severe damage. Subvortices usually occur in groups of 2 to 5. The occurrence of these smaller subvortices can explain why a house is destroyed, while other houses remain unharmed. Best known example of this tornado type is El Reno, Oklahoma, on May 31, 2013, taking the lives of tornado researcher Tim Samaras, his son Paul, and their TwistX colleague, Carl Young. It had a maximum width of 2.6 miles, 4.2 kilometers, and a maximum recorded wind speed of at least 295 miles per hour, 475 kilometers per hour. Another dangerous aspect of some tornadoes is the fact that it can be rain-wrapped. It is a kind of rain curtain, that is caused by intense rain. The tornado is hidden behind this curtain of rain and people cannot really see the tornado and they will not take shelter in time. Man from Belgium lived in Joplin. His wife happened to be in Belgium on May 22, 2011. The clouds were dark. This man was curious and took out his camera. He stood outside and saw nothing. The neighbor saw him and ran. He took him to his house and they took shelter in a bathtub with a mattress on it. Moments later, the tornado passed this house. Fortunately they were unharmed. How did that neighbor know the tornado was coming? He recognized the sound. It sounded exactly like freight train or jet fighter passing by. Root causes. One element which may have played a part, is the limited access of the poor to financial resources. The building of safe rooms, i.e. structures that provide near absolute protection during extreme weather events, cost quite a considerable amount, between $2,500 and $18,000, meaning that the poor are disadvantaged and less able to protect themselves, especially as there were no public safe rooms or storm shelters in which they could stay. Dynamic pressures. The community has some training and education with regards to the warning system and the risks. There was poor public action and failure of many in the community to understand and act on the danger. This shows that the training and education of the public was not sufficient. One factor contributing to this is the lack of credibility of sirens in Joplin. The sirens can be used both for severe thunderstorm winds, e.g. over 120 km per hour, and for reports of tornadoes moving towards Joplin. There does not necessarily need to be a warning from the NWS, National Weather Service, for a siren to be sounded, and in addition, sirens are not sounded for every tornado warning given by the NWS. The sirens were also not always clearly audible. As a result of this, there is a lack of information provided to the public, as sirens and tornado warnings often do not convey the severity of the storm. In addition, as the sirens are used frequently, there is a high false alarm rate, further reducing the credibility of the sirens. It has been suggested that Joplin emergency authorities should rethink using sirens for other severe weather occurrences and that further education of the community is necessary for better warning response behaviors. There is a lack of federal or state standards on the use of tornado communication systems and public response. As a result, the use of tornado communication systems such as sirens often differs within and between states, e.g. sirens used for different disasters, different soundings. This variability can cause confusion and make it difficult for people to understand the disaster and the consequent actions that should be taken, especially in a region like Joplin where multiple states come together. This can increase the potential for severe consequences. The population from USA has almost doubled since 1954. And has seen an increasing proportion of its population in urban areas, 74% in 1980, 81% in 2011. In the USA, this increase corresponds with higher property and infrastructure values, which contributes to the high economic damage caused by this tornado. Although the siren has coverage over almost the entire town, with even an overlap of sirens in some places of the town, the sirens are not designed to be heard from inside a house, especially when doors and windows are closed, and the Joplin has a hilly topography. These factors may limit the audibility of sirens for residents. The city of Joplin did not invest in the construction of storm shelters or safe houses. These constructions have a high potential for saving lives. However, for a number of reasons, e.g. cost, and complex legal and operational reasons, their construction is only encouraged, rather than required for residential buildings. This lack of investment increased the vulnerability of the population. Unsafe conditions. The physical environment, in this case the living conditions in Joplin, is an important factor contributing to the large amount of damage the Joplin tornado made. The living conditions in Joplin are not the same everywhere. A lot of houses are built out of wood without the walls anchoring to the foundations and without a basement. A basement is an ideal place to find shelter in case of a tornado. Most houses are built without a basement because of the rocky soil, high water table and mining history in the region. There are some old mining shafts running under the city, which cause subsidence problems and subsequently a lot of building problems. There are no real building codes in the area. This is due to the fact that the occurrence of tornadoes moved to the east from Tornado Alley. Within the old Tornado Alley, the government imposed strict building codes, which means that the houses and other buildings are better adapted to the tornado hazard. In the new Tornado Alley, such strict building codes do not exist. As a result, the houses here are less robust, which makes them more vulnerable in case of a tornado. When there was no safe room, the conditions of a house failed to provide protection, mostly because these houses were built more than 30 years ago with older construction standards for which tornado and wind-borne debris hazards were not taken into account. A solution to this could be the availability of a public shelter or safe rooms, but Joplin did not invest in this. Because many people, mostly poor people, lived in mobile or manufactured homes which were not tornado resistant, the Joplin tornado death toll was very high. Also, a lot of people lived in rental houses or apartments which were not tornado resistant as well and did not have safe rooms or storm shelters for the inhabitants. This means that a lot of inhabitants did not have a protective option during the tornado. Joplin is a densely populated area. It is one of the larger metropolitan areas in Missouri, and in 2010 had an estimated population of 50,150, spanning an area of 81.69 square kilometers. When a disaster happens in an area with a lot of people, there is a bigger chance for a large number of victims and/or deaths. Unfortunately, the Joplin tornado passed right through the city center. Local economy and social relations/groups are important to take into account because it is not easy for all inhabitants to get the same information and react in the best way possible on a threatening risk. Education plays an important role in this aspect. Mostly poor and less educated people are not able to fully understand the situation and the warning signs used, due to e.g. language barrier or illiteracy, less media access, which could be catastrophic in a situation like the Joplin tornado. Also, elderly people have a greater risk of death because of less mobility, a lack of information about warning systems and upcoming disasters, and the uncertainty to recover from a trauma. The deaf, the blind, and the people with wheelchairs have also a greater risk of death. The deaf cannot hear the siren. The blind and the wheelchair users have more time to find shelter. Different actions and laws can lead to a different outcome of a disaster. The great death toll is also a result of situations which happened in the past where warnings were wrong and the disbelief of the fact that a disaster is going to happen. People often do not realize the danger or do not believe it because warnings have proven to be wrong in the past. In the region there are a lot of short-track, high-frequency tornadoes. The people are warned by the same alarm system as for a severe tornado. These short-track tornadoes do not reach the community all the time, resulting in a false alarm. This is why a lot of people do not react in time, as they do not take the alarm serious and do not go into a shelter. The warning system itself can be seen as adequate, but the response of the residents of Joplin was not good. The warning was adequate but not effective. The lack of response of people to the sirens was a real problem in this disaster. It was also not effective because people did not have access to a shelter in case of a tornado. However, some people did not hear the alarm if they were indoors with doors and windows closed. After the warning signal, the provision of information was not stable, the media did not play an important role to inform, so no confirmation of information and perceiving personal risk was available to obtain the right reaction of the people. Not only the reaction and warning is important, but after all, experience plays an important role as well. Someone who never had a tornado experience before, could have a wrong estimation of the tornado impact and will not react as someone who already experienced a tornado. In a region with a lot of inexperienced people, the chance of a higher death rate is more probable. Conclusion. Many people do not have to work on Sundays. They stay at home. At work, the infrastructure is usually better, e.g. hospital, shops, schools. They also usually have the shelters. Not with houses. The EF5 tornado passed through Joplin City Center. Heaviest tornado with multi-vortex and rain-wrapped and numerous flying debris. The warning system did not work properly, such as the siren that was not always audible, confusion, lack of training and education. There was also inequality in this city. Poor and rich. The rich can afford the shelters, the poor cannot. The wealthy were well educated and also had better access to the important information. The infrastructure was also one of the causes, such as no building regulations, old building standards, mobile houses. There were no public shelters. These various factors add up and you end up with a deadly cocktail. As a result, there were many deaths, injuries, and damage. That was the worst case scenario. They must do something about these factors to avoid such similar situations in the future. After the destruction, the buildings are rebuilt. Hopefully you have learned something from Tornado Joplin May 22, 2011.